Canes, what's up, man? Yeah, I was actually just I was looking at Warren Nolan. Yeah, certainly Clemson is in trouble. Um, what surprised me is, and again, we talked about it last night somewhat, that the ACC is a lot deeper than I think people realized. Um, but for Notre Dame, it was in South Bend. It's not like it was a road sweep, but certainly no one expected Notre Dame to sweep Clemson. And yeah, I mean, Clemson's got some issues. I mean, their offense, it seemed like, Sunday game against Georgia Tech, their offense kind of felt like their offense kind of picked it up. And then in the midweek, the offense looked good. But, if you look at the game scores here for Clemson, you get shut out, you get beat 7-4 today. Yesterday, let's see, the score was like another low scoring game for them. I can find it. 8-7. So they scored, decent amount of runs, but not a ton. And then they got shut out on Friday. So they scored 11 runs in 3 games. Where is it? 11 runs in 3 games? Yeah, they scored 11 runs in 3 games. That ain't going to cut it. Barks, what's up, man? Is LSU any good this year? LSU is one of those teams, user 34218. LSU is one of those teams that if they click at any moment and they actually click, they can beat anybody. Right? That's the thing with LSU. Certainly right now they are not playing well. I didn't even see what they did today. Did they even play today, or did they play a doubleheader yesterday? Let me go back here. Did LSU play a doubleheader yesterday? Yeah, so they lost the series to Oklahoma. Oklahoma's really good. I mean, Oklahoma's good. But still, I mean, LSU was, number 2 team in the country starting the year. And so obviously they have not played, not only, well in SEC play, but in the midweeks, and on the weekends against some not great teams as well. So LSU is definitely in trouble right now. But again, I mean, they have all the talent in the world on their team. So if they just find a way to click, they could have a strong finish. I mean, certainly, unless they just run the table moving forward, it doesn't look like they're going to be a host. But certainly they can still get into the tournament as long as they just have a decent SEC record and they do well in the midweeks, which is that's kind of up in the air. We play them at Clemson next week, so it will be a battle of 2 desperate teams. Yeah, 100%. 100%. But Clemson, I mean, you're really worried about that offense, man, because the pitching staff was okay this weekend, but certainly Aiden Knock has one of the weirdest stat lines. I mean, he's got a really high ERA, strikes out a ton of guys, but it's like he either strikes a guy out or he gives up a double or a bomb or a ton of hits. It's really weird. It's very weird to see a guy who has swing and miss stuff to the point where he's got a lot of strikeouts, but gives up a ton of runs, and he doesn't walk guys. He throws strikes. So it's really weird. It's like he either gets a swing and miss or it's on the barrel. There's no in between. JD, hey Kyle, wild day today. Yeah. I was happy to see Georgia Tech really dominate today. For my alma mater's sake. The pitching, we talked about the pitching being a little concerning. Starting pitcher Jackson Blakely was great. Bullpen did great really up until the 7th. But for the most part, pitching staff looked great today. It's still, and I think pretty much any fan or person that follows college baseball's mind is going to be, that's going to be the question mark moving forward, because on the weekend, Georgia Tech put up a ton of runs again. That's just what they do. But the question is going to be down the line, are they going to be able to pitch enough to make it out of a regional? Because we've talked about this a bunch on the show. Like the regionals are a test of your pitching depth. Like that's all it is. You can have a great offense and kind of slug your way out of a regional. It's, in my experience, it's tough to do that because you're going to face teams with really good pitching. Looks like ACC and SEC will be beating up on each other internally. Yes, 100%. I think the ACC is way deeper than people thought. The SEC, of course, is deep. North Carolina pulled out a great series win against Louisville, but Louisville played them close. Louisville is looking like they're starting to show some life as a team and kind of starting to play better. Virginia took or won a tough series against Wake Forest, but Wake Forest looked pretty good. They didn't look great today. Tennessee pulled out the series win against Missouri. So I think that fan base is feeling a little bit better. Tennessee's offense starting to show a little bit of life. Florida State looks great. Now 5-1 in the ACC. They are atop the ACC in win percentage, although they've only played 2 weekends in ACC play right now. But a really, really easy win against NC State today, 15-5. So expect Florida State to jump into the top 10 tomorrow. Florida gets swept. And I don't know if you guys saw the clip of Kevin O'Sullivan in the dugout with his hat off, and he's kind of just doing this, just like, that's not a good look, That's a frustrated coach. And Florida's issue seems to be offense. They gave up 14 runs today, but certainly their offense has been anemic for most of the season. They only had 6 hits today. They had 7 runs on 6 hits. But you're not hitting in this era. It's really tough. LSU will need to get a sweep of a strong SEC opponent on the road. Yeah, I mean they got to pick it up, certainly. Now Oklahoma's good, so it's not like, and I believe they were on the road in Norman. I could be wrong about that, but I believe they were on the road. But still, when you're coming in as number 2 team in the country, or number 3 or whatever they were, you're expected to do much better than they've done. What mid-majors are looking good so far? Actually, a lot of mid-majors are looking good. I was really impressed with Liberty this weekend, just on Friday night. But certainly if we look through some of these mid-major conferences, UTSA's looked good, even though they did kind of have a rough weekend last weekend. Wichita State looks pretty good. Miami took care of business against Creighton this weekend. But I think right now, in the mid-major category, again, you can't call them really a mid-major, but Coastals look great. Santa Barbara has been great. Even though they are 5-4 in the Big West, which is weird, they're 15-6. 4 of their losses have come in conference play, so they've kind of cooled off a bit. But your usuals are going to be solid. Just scrolling through all these scores here. Kent State looks really good. Now 8-1 in the MAC. They're 18-4 on the year. Murray State off to a 16-8 start. Mercer has been unbelievable. There's a lot of really good mid-majors out there. Southern Miss. I'm not even talking through the top 25 mid-majors, because obviously those guys are looking good. We are crushing the mid-majors and the bums. It's the ACC competition and real competition we're struggling with. Yeah, and that's fine. You know, again, Miami is 2-4 in ACC play. Like, not a great start, but you know, it's better than being, or sorry, not yeah, it's better than being 0-6 or 1-5. You got to always take the silver lining with these things. Southern Miss with wins over Mississippi State and Ole Miss, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Southern Misses look great. No, like, again, I mean, they're in the top 25. So they're fine. Thoughts on Drew? Seems to be struggling in hitting. Do you see something in his mechanics? You know, from watching the video, and again, the video with Pitt was not great. But just the way he's missing, he seems to have, you know, he seems to be out front on everything and around everything. You know, Friday, I think he looked pretty good. He had some decent at bats, but Saturday and Sunday didn't look that great. You know, I think for Drew, he's got to let the ball, he's got a ton of bat speed. He's just got to let the ball get there a little bit more. I think he's feeling a little bit of the pressure of, again, just being a high-end pick. And I think he's trying to do a little too much. I don't think like there's anything crazy wrong with his mechanics. Like, he's got great swing mechanics. But I do think he's getting out and around everything or out front. Even today, he did hit one ball to right field. The wind was howling out at Pitt. I mean, Pitt was a launching pad all weekend. And, you know, it kind of got robbed at the wall, but he didn't hit that great. He was kind of out front and reaching for it, and he's so strong, he still hits it pretty hard. But in my opinion, watching his at-bats this weekend, he just seemed to be out and around everything, specifically on Saturday and Sunday, like very pull-heavy in his direction. So I think if his direction can get a little bit more center field to right center gap, that will fix everything. You know, on one of the broadcasts I did earlier this year with Zuckerman, he was kind of going through a little bit of a funk, like a 2-game, 3-game funk. And on the broadcast, I said he's got to hit one ball hard line drive into right center, and he's going to be back. And his next at bat, he hit actually, I think it was in the at bat. I said he's just got to hit one hard to right center gap. He hits a home run to right center, and he kind of locked back in right after that. And so many times as a hitter, you're trying to get out front and you're not doing it correctly, and you get out and around. And so my opinion for Drew, like if he can just find right center and in BP and his cage work, like really let the ball travel and get inside the ball. Like one of my favorite drills I saw, which was in the exhibition game against the Astros, was when I was in big league spring training with the Brewers, and we were in Houston. I was watching, you know, obviously they had George Springer. I mean, they were just loaded. And I was watching their guys take BP, and Altuve, his first round of BP, he literally tries to stay inside the ball so much that he hits the opposite side of a turtle of the cage that they hit in on the field. And he's doing that because he's trying to get on playing deep. He's trying to let the ball travel and stay inside it, and then he can work his way to the pull side. Like if you watch a lot of elite hitters in BP, especially in the major leagues, what they do is they try to go opposite field for a couple rounds, then they go more like gap to gap, and then they let it eat to the pull side for power. And then like the last round, they're back to center field direction. And I think like that's what Drew needs to do. I think he's just got to let the ball travel a little bit more, and trust his hands, trust his bat speed, and he's going to be fine. Like Drew's going to be fine. But he certainly has the last 2 to 3 weekends been scuffling. I look for Troy to pick it up. Yeah, I think Troy will be fine. Clemson isn't having a good ACC season lately. Yeah, their offense has just been kind of a question mark, Nancy. They're just not putting up a lot of runs. And you're seeing that kind of translate to, the problem is when you have one part of your team that's struggling, like let's just say for Georgia Tech, like if you're pitching struggling, your offense feels that pressure. Your offense feels the pressure that we got to put up a ton of runs every game. It's the opposite is true for Clemson. Like their offense is struggling, so you kind of get that vibe that the pitching staff feels like, man, we can't give up too many runs. And when that pressure starts to hit on the other side of the team, they start to not do as well because they feel like they got to be perfect. And so I think Clemson, again, they got to fix the offensive stuff. I do think one thing I was not impressed with in the Georgia Tech series was Clemson's defense. And from what I could tell from following the series this weekend, I don't think they played great defense. And sometimes it's not even in errors. It's not turning double plays, or it's throwing to the wrong base and allowing a runner to take another 90 feet. Sometimes defensive misplays don't show up in the box score as an error, but they heavily impact the game. And Clemson's defense, for me, after watching that entire Clemson or Georgia Tech series, was a question mark as well. Did you watch the Auburn versus Texas series? I watched some of the first game, some of the second game. I think if you're an Auburn fan, I think Auburn's got a really, really, really good team. They can really pitch. They did lose the series to Texas, but listen, Texas is really good too. Texas can really pitch. They've got a really good offense. Auburn and Texas are two very similarly matched teams. They both can really pitch. They have really good bullpens, and their offense, while not being elite, is really good. Now, Auburn was shut out today, but I do think, you walk away from that series thinking, we got one. We played them close pretty much in every game. And, if you're Texas, you look at that series and you think, if we don't just completely botch a play in the ninth inning, it's probably a tie game, but maybe you still pull that game. Maybe you still pull a win out. Who knows? But Texas, I think, is feeling great about that series on the road in Auburn. But if you're an Auburn fan, I don't think there's anything to panic about. Like, Texas is really good. Did you ever get that? Yeah, I got it. How good do you think Pitt is? You think they can continue playing well? Hail to Pitt from Charles Parrish. I think Pitt's solid, man. Like Pitt's. I've been saying this now the last 2 weekends. I think the ACC is way deeper than people thought it was going to be. Pitt's offense is legit, especially in that park. I mean, that park, if the wind blows like that every series at Pittsburgh, they're going to have a chance to beat everybody because if you're not matched up against one of, if not the best offenses in the country in just pure terms of like hitting, run scoring, which Georgia Tech is, like Pitt's going to be able to go blow for blow with anybody. And I thought their pitching was decent. You have to remember, like, I saw some balls hit in that series that had no business being home runs, and they were like easy home runs. And even some balls like Drew Burress today hit one way out front to right center or to right field, and it got robbed. And it had no business being a home run or even being close to the fence. So I do think Pitt is really good. The question is, can they pitch enough? But I think their offense is legit. Their offense is going to cause issues for any team they play. But let me look through some of these other scores. I mean, obviously Mississippi State sweeps Vandy. Vandy is not in a good spot. They did beat LSU last weekend at home, and LSU is, as we all know, is just not playing well right now. So it's not as big of a series win as like you look at it. I mean, LSU's near the bottom of the SEC right now in terms of record and just in terms of how they've performed so far this year. Mississippi State looks great. They've played very well. Notre Dame has played very well. Boston College has played very well up and down the ACC. I mean, if you look at the ACC, so Boston College swept Cal. Boston College is 6-3 in the ACC right now. Virginia beat Wake Forest. Like Florida State and NC State duked it out. Florida State wins the series 2 out of 3. North Carolina and Louisville played a really close series. North Carolina did come out on top. Duke and Virginia Tech played a really close series. Virginia Tech took that series. Both teams sitting at 4-5 in ACC play. Really, the two teams that just have not looked great, the only two teams that have not looked decent in the ACC this year have been Stanford and Cal. And Cal actually looked great, or looked pretty good coming into ACC play. They've been swept in both series, and Stanford is 9-12 on the year and is 1-5 in the ACC. And they played a doubleheader against Utah Valley today. So they got 2 wins today. They were 7-12 on the year coming into the games today. So Stanford's looked really bad, and Cal's looked really bad. But besides that, everyone else seems like you're in for a series. Yeah, I don't think either Texas or Auburn want to run into each other before championship round of SEC. Yeah, I agree. I think both teams are really good. I was really impressed with Auburn in the midweek against Georgia Tech, just because their midweek starter was very good. And when your midweek starter is that good, that means your pitching staff's elite. Pitt has a good offense. Tech's bullpen was no bueno Saturday. Yeah, and you know what? Like, it was a really, really bad offensive environment. But I agree. Like I talked about it last night, Nancy. Like, certainly the biggest concern for me, and I've been saying this since really the start of the year, is the starting pitching and its ability to go deep enough into games. Because I do think Georgia Tech's bullpen is better than it's been in the last 3 years. But when your bullpen is having to cover 6 innings a game, it's going to be very hard to sweep. It's going to be almost impossible to sweep, because that means in at least one of your games, you're going to have to throw guys that are in certain situations where you're not planning on throwing them, right? If your bullpen's covering 5 to 6 innings per game, that means on Saturday or Sunday, you're going to have to bring in guys in a close situation, unless your offense just blows a team out like they did today, that you would not normally bring in those situations. So the key for me, for Georgia Tech, just moving forward, and especially looking at regional play, getting to a super regional, is can the starting pitching just go deep enough into games? And Tate McKee, for example, I think one thing about Tate McKee is he does have like 6 or 7 pitches, but he throws a 92 to 95 mile an hour sinker. And against right-handed hitters, like, listen, I'll tell you, like, as a left-handed hitter, when I faced a lefty with a legit sinker and it was in the mid 90s, that was a nightmare matchup. Like, that was you could throw me a sinker middle in almost every pitch, and I'm going to really struggle to do something with it, because it's very hard for a hitter to see a pitch come out of the hand looking middle in, and then it sinks and runs underneath your hands. Like, you have to really fight inside that pitch to do anything with it. And so I think like the key for Tate McKee is, like, against right-handed hitters, can he just pound the zone in with his sinker and get weak contact, get ground balls, get early outs in an at-bat, like not going deep into an at-bat? Because one thing about Tate McKee is it does seem like he'll get ahead of a hitter, or he'll be in a 1-1 count. He just gets to a lot of 3-2 counts. And if you're getting into a lot of 3-2 counts, you're not going deep into games. If you can get a 0-1 weak ground ball to shortstop once an inning, you've set yourself up to have a fairly quick inning. But so, like, I think Tate McKee, it's less about strikeouts for him, and can he just really play his sinker to its strengths? And you saw that against Clemson. Against Clemson, he was just hammering righties with sinkers, and playing the slider and the cutter off of that, and he was really good. Vandy does get some pitchers back in 10 to 14 days. Yeah, one of my guys, Matthew Shorey, I don't know if he pitched this weekend. Let me check. I don't know if he's come back yet. He has not pitched all year with an injury. Yeah, he hasn't pitched yet, I don't think, unless he pitched today. But Vandy's pitching is kind of struggling as well. I mean, they're throwing, pitching to a 5.58 ERA. The offense is hitting 293, albeit they are hitting a ton of home runs. But again, if you hit a lot of home runs, but you're not getting a lot of guys on, you're hitting a lot of solo 2-run shots. They've scored 200 runs in 25 games, so they're scoring under 10 runs a game, even though they've got 56 home runs on the year, 51 doubles, 4 triples. They're hitting a ton of extra base hits, but they haven't scored as many runs as you would think. Yeah, Georgia Tech pitching in the launch zone doesn't help either. Yeah. I mean, Pitt was listen, they did not, the bullpen overall, the starting pitching, except for Jackson Blakely today, did not pitch well over the weekend. But that environment was a absolute launching pad. I mean, the ball was just flying, and especially on turf too. Like on grass, a lot of those doubles Pitt hit are singles because it's going to hit the grass and check up. On turf, it hits the grass and just skips. And so you get a lot more doubles and extra base hits when you're playing on turf because you hit a hard line drive that would check up and probably get cut off. It can't get cut off. Seems the Sunday starter isn't nailed down yet. I don't know. I think Jackson Blakely has looked pretty good. I think Jackson Blakely's looked pretty good. I don't want to say he's won the Sunday job yet, but certainly, looking at the Clemson series, looking at what he did today against Pitt, he's done pretty well. Arrest, deport, execute. Ilhan Omar, Brett Phillips, Nancy Pelosi. I think you know how I would answer that, Wiley. So Georgia Tech's offense still scoring over 10 runs per game. 288 runs in 24 games played. Still basically walking about the exact same as they are striking out. 177 walks to 182 strikeouts. 25 stolen bases in 30 attempts. They're really not stealing a ton of bases. And again, with the offense they have, you're not going to take a lot of chances on the base paths when as a team you're hitting 373. The pitching staff definitely took a hit this weekend. Still pitching as a staff to a 4.8 ERA, which means, if you're playing clean defense, you're not giving up a ton of runs. But I think the main area for concern is that, your starting pitchers, Dylan Loy. I mean, listen, this is the reality here. Tate McKee has 6 starts. He's thrown 26 innings. So he's throwing well below 5 innings per start. Dylan Loy has made 5 starts, 7 appearances. He's at 23 innings pitched. So again, not going very deep. Jackson Blakely's made 3 starts. He's at 17 with another 2 appearances as well on top of that. So you just don't have a lot of guys going deep, and the bullpen's having to cover a lot of innings. And, a lot of the guys that you thought were going to be, big time arms out of the bullpen. I mean, listen, Porter Bursama's actually looked fairly decent out of the bullpen, but he's got 9 walks in 8 innings, which is just not a recipe for success long term. Brett Barfield's looked pretty good. He's thrown 6 innings. But you go down the list. I mean, Carson Ballard's been maybe one of your best arms out of the bullpen. Jake Lanke gave up a ton of runs today. He was looking really solid out of the bullpen, but he got clipped today. But you have a lot of guys that have not pitched well out of the bullpen. Mason Patel, the one good thing from what you've seen is since he's returned and made some appearances out of the bullpen, he's looked back to his former self that he was last year. So that's a big plus for Georgia Tech that, you do have Mason Patel who can piggyback off one of these arms if they don't go super deep into a game. But just all in all, I mean, Justin Shattuck has looked pretty good in his last couple appearances, but he's still not really coming in big situations. So the question is, will he be able to perform like that in big situations? He came in today in a blowout, so it's like you don't really learn anything about a pitcher when there's no pressure on you, right? You learn something about a guy when there's pressure on. It's a 1-run game or a tie game. Will there be a change on Saturday? Loy struggled Saturday. I don't think so. Like I still believe that Loy will end up being fine. He's too good of a pitcher. So I'm actually probably the least worried about Loy because he's got such a track record pitching in the SEC. But yeah, I mean, he's got to take it to the next level for sure. Georgia Tech Friday, Saturday starters combined for 5 innings pitched, 11 earned runs this weekend. No bueno. Yeah, exactly. And even if it is, an offensive, ball was flying, and it was, but still, that's 2.5 innings per starter. That's not a recipe for success. Gaudette and Patel closed Friday's game well. Yeah, Gaudette's looked pretty good. Gaudette's looked pretty good so far this year. Patel, like I said, has looked great since he's returned. Damn, Canes get Clemson coming off a sweep. Yeah, Canes have and it's going to be sad too, Canes, because Clemson will probably be out of the top 25 now. So, but with the way Clemson's playing, like it's a good series for Miami to kind of get things back on track in conference play. 100%. You would have loved it in 2954. Fill me in, Canes had friends in from out of town and was disappointed to miss. Yeah, we were talking Iran war for 2 hours. Yeah, we were talking Iran war for a long time. It was, dude, I actually lost track of time. I looked down and it was like 12:05 and I'm like, guys, I got to go to sleep. Glad Florida. Yeah, Florida's not going to be ranked. I mean, there's going to be a lot of shakeup in the D1 baseball rankings. So this week or tomorrow, there's going to be some shakeup for real. And yeah, Florida's a hard one to understand. Like Florida, I still believe is going to be a really hard team to beat, like in regionals. But their offense has got to pick it up. They're just not scoring any runs. Their offense is anemic right now. Very similar to Clemson. Like Clemson's got arms, but what I was talking about earlier is when your arms feel like, man, we got to be perfect to win some games. That performance is going to go down. When your offense feels like, man, we got to score 10 runs a game to win, or maybe even more, your performance is going to go down. I remember playing on a team in Colorado Springs, my first year in Colorado Springs, or maybe my second year, where, I mean, dude, it was like first inning 10-0. Like it was that bad. Like we're at home, I'm in center field, and I'm sitting there like, it's been an hour and we're still in the top of the first. And so how tough is it as an offense to go out after you're down 10-0? You're just like, okay, well, guess this game's over. Also, Notre Dame isn't bad at all right now. Dude, Notre Dame is looking great. Boston College is looking really good. I said it, I think really the only two teams in the ACC that have looked really bad are the two California teams, Cal and Stanford. Stanford's been atrocious. They came into the game, they had a doubleheader today, won both against Utah Valley, but they came in 7-12, which is not great. Cal actually looked pretty good. They started out pretty well in non-conference play, but they're 0-6 in ACC play. So, they're not feeling great about themselves. The problem is, though, D1 baseball does heavily skew towards the SEC. So, like, when an SEC team loses an SEC series against, like, a non-ranked SEC team, they don't get punished like an ACC team gets for losing to, like, a Notre Dame or a Boston College or whoever. So, my hope is that changes somewhat this year because, like, again, the way Notre Dame's playing, you're like, hey, we got to lock in for Notre Dame. Like, Notre Dame is not playing around. Louisville seems to be getting back into form. They played North Carolina pretty tight. North Carolina did take the series. But all in all, I mean, you look at the ACC conference record right now. Let's just check it out here. So you have Florida State at the top at 5-1. Then you got North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, Boston College atop the ACC right now. All those at 6-3. NC State is 3-3. Pitt 3-3. Louisville 3-3. Duke 3-3. Wake Forest 4-5. Miami 2-4. Virginia Tech 2-4. I think those are. I don't know if those are updated though. I don't think some of those are updated, right? No, that's right. Those are right. Okay. Well, no, Virginia Tech is 4-5 and Duke is 4-5. I don't know why those aren't. So Virginia Tech is kind of, they won the series this weekend against Duke, but certainly like Clemson's at the bottom with Stanford and Cal at 1-5, which like who would have saw that coming? The ACC is deep this year, guys. The ACC is deep. Also, speaking of the Iran war conversation last night, like diesel in Atlanta, and I drive a diesel truck, diesel is $5 a gallon now. So, yikes. Where would you rank Georgia Tech, exclude all preseason rankings? I think they're in the top 10 for sure. I don't know if they're top 5. I think you have them at based on how you've we'll say it like this. If you were looking at teams, how they've performed so far, and not just win and loss record, but all right, where will they end up at the end of the year? I think you still have Georgia Tech around 7 or 8 because the offense is so elite. And the pitching staff has kind of really been up and down. Like we saw today, pitching staff looked great. First 2 games, pitching staff did not look great. So the pitching staff really, it's just there hasn't been consistency has really been the issue. But still with an offense like they have, you can have an inconsistent pitching staff and still win, like they have every series in ACC play so far. But I don't think they would be ranked as a top 5 team. And the one common denominator that you have, for example, in what I would say would be like the top 25 teams are really good pitching. So like Auburn, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Texas, UCLA, like those guys can really pitch. I expect Florida State to make like a pretty decent jump, probably into the top 10. The question is, as I'm looking at this, Auburn lost their series, but it was to Texas. So, how far are they going to drop? They're probably not going to drop, or they may drop to 6 or 7, and Georgia and Mississippi State move up 1 spot. So I do think Florida State jumps into the top 10, but it's not going to be a huge jump just because, the only team in front of them that lost is NC State at 10 and Auburn's just not going to drop all the way out of the top 10. But really, the question mark, I mean, if we're looking at a team and thinking, okay, what is going to keep them from getting to a super regional? It's the starting pitching right now. And I don't care about, I honestly could care less about advanced metrics and all of that and, in zone whiff or anything. It's about, how many runs do they give up per game? And the one thing I think you can say about Georgia Tech's pitching that's vastly improved over the last couple of years is the strike throwing percentage. The walk rates, which is great. Like it means teams have to really hit their way on. What I will say, what I see happen a lot is Georgia Tech gets to a 2-strike count, and then the breaking balls are either They're not getting as many chases on stuff out of the zone, or they hang it and it just gets crushed. And so it'll be interesting to see just kind of what the adjustments are, how the adjustments are made. But like there's things about the pitching staff that you love, which is they typically have thrown this year a ton of strikes, but they seem to be giving up a lot of runs. I think Auburn beating Georgia Tech buoys their ranking a bit too. Otherwise, it'd look like a 1-3 week with a fluke walk-off Friday. Yeah, true. That's a good point too. That's a good point. The win against Georgia Tech in the midweek will keep them. They may not even drop a rank, because you lost to Texas, probably the best team in the country. UCLA not going to drop because they're in the Big Ten, and they may just go undefeated in Big Ten play. So like UCLA, you don't foresee them dropping at all unless they lose to USC or Oregon in Big Ten play. Like those are the three really teams that are going to compete for that championship. But Auburn losing to Texas, it's like, you're not going to move a lot. You beat Georgia Tech in the midweek. Do you think Georgia Tech could find a way into the College World Series? Yeah, 100%. Georgia Tech, for me, I think for them to get out of a regional, like the big thing for Georgia Tech is they just have to, their starting pitching has to go deeper in games. Because the bullpen, I mean, listen, like I'll tell you my dad's whole strategy in terms of pitching in a major league season is you want your starting pitching to go deep the first half of the season. Because if you're depending on a bullpen 5 innings, 6 innings a game in the first half of the season, your bullpen's going to be shot by the end of the year. You're going to fall apart down the stretch. You're going to fall apart in the playoffs because those guys have just carried a ton of innings. And it's not quite the same thing in college baseball because you only play 4 games a week. Typically, you got a lot more rest, but I don't think Georgia Tech's bullpen is good enough to consistently cover 6 innings a game. Now, when Mason Patel is back to being his 3 to 4 inning type guy out of the bullpen, I think you feel better about that because he can cover a lot of those innings as well. But this is what I was saying earlier, Arrington, is when your starting pitching doesn't go into the 4th inning or into the 5th inning, that means and that's the let's say the average right now for a Georgia Tech starter, certainly over ACC play, has been about 3 to 4 innings per start, somewhere in there. And if you're doing that, that means one of the 3 games on the weekend, you're going to have to bring guys in a situation where they would not typically pitch. And that's where trouble happens. So it's going to be very hard with the way their starting pitching has performed so far to get sweeps unless your offense really just dominates a team, just slugs them to death. Now, Georgia Tech's offense has that capability. They haven't done that yet in ACC play, but that's the issue. What's happening at South Carolina? I just think, listen, Palmineri, from all indications, no one wanted to play for Palmineri there. I think the players did not like him. I think you saw a clip today with South Carolina winning. You saw Monty Lee come in, and the team obviously really likes Monty. So, it's amazing how big of a deal that is. I don't think anyone really talks about that, but when players feel like this guy doesn't have our back, we don't really like him. And again, it may not be true, but that's just what, if you believe all the stuff coming out of South Carolina, that was the case. That's what the problem was. Now, I think there's some issues with the talent on the team as well, but that was a big factor. UVA, North Carolina State, FSU, all very good teams that I'm interested to see just how good. Hard to tell right now. I think FSU, really good. They have really good arms. They got power in their lineup. The offense has seemed to come online. Offense was a little bit slow to start. Offense has come online. North Carolina State, I think starting pitching is decent. I think their pitching is a little overhyped. But their offense has been very good. So I think that's fair to say about NCSU. I think UVA, listen, I'm a buy on UVA because Pollard is is really good. Like, don't forget what Chris Pollard did at Duke. I think people forget how bad Duke was for like 60 years. And then Chris Pollard gets there and they're like making super regionals, and like Duke hadn't made a regional. I believe this is, I remember looking this up last year. Duke hadn't made a regional since like the 60s until Pollard got there. So, or maybe it was a super regional, maybe it's a regional. Either way, that's insane. So Pollard at UVA, way better facilities, way better support from administration. He can really coach. He's going to have better players. Like, UVA is going to be good. I can't believe they weren't ranked coming into the year, just to be honest. That was a huge oversight by D1 baseball. And because that wasn't factoring in like the coaching staff and everything like that. So how about them Knowles? Yeah, Florida State's looking great, man. Florida State's looking great. I'm also a buy on UVA. Pollard knows. What's up, Big H? Pollard knows his stuff. Also will always hold my UNC stock. Yeah. UNC's UNC, man. They're kind of the same every year. Like, they can really pitch. They can really pitch. Their offense is always like good and good. They never quite seem to have like an elite offense, but their offense is always really good, like really solid. Score like 7 or 8 runs a game on average. And so when you have really good pitching and you score that many runs, you're gonna win a lot of games. That's kind of UNC's formula. Is they're gonna pitch, and they're gonna have a good offense that can support the pitching staff. I got to watch Florida get swept. Florida lost in March Madness second round and won a top 10 series. Another amazing weekend for a Knoll fan. Players will do whatever Pollard asked them to do. My Cavs. Yeah. I mean, it was a great hire by Virginia. You lose a guy like O'Connor. D1 acted like O'Connor leaving UVA relegated them to a fringe ranked team and ignored that Duke's roster and staff was going to Virginia. Yeah, I mean, like, you got AJ Gracia. I mean, that, like, it really made no sense. WBE. Like, when I saw that Virginia wasn't ranked, I was like, okay, that's weird, because Duke was really good last year. All their best players went to Virginia. Even flipped some of their commits from Duke to Virginia, like Marcus Stroman's brother. And it was just kind of mind-boggling. I'm like, why? It made sense at Duke, right? Because this is the era of college baseball we're in. When you hire an assistant coach, when you hire a head coach, a lot of the players from that coach's school follow him to the next school, like Brian O'Connor at Mississippi State. A lot of UVA's best players went to Mississippi State. Pretty much all of Duke's best players went to Virginia. And so I'd never understood why Virginia wasn't ranked. Like, their team on paper, you're like, this is a really good team. But they're showing it now. But certainly it was really an oversight by D1 baseball that Virginia wasn't ranked. I mean, it would have been totally fine to have them at like 23 or 24 or something like that. But to not be ranked, it was just strange. Virginia doesn't quite have tons and tons of top-end talent, but I still don't think we've seen their top gear by any means. Yeah, which is, again, you got to factor in, and this is something, I guess it's hard to factor into rankings, but just a coach's ability to get the maximum out of their players. Pollard's shown that. Brian O'Connor's shown that. Elite coaches find a way, no matter where they are, no matter how talented their team is, to get the best out of their players. And so, yeah, it was a bit of an oversight. Pollard's got great support being a homegrown. Yeah, he's got great support, and he's going to kill it there. I mean, he's going to kill it at Virginia. Virginia's going to be, I don't expect them to be unranked next year. He would have a 66% clip 2 out of 3 years. If JD proves it again, you can add him to that list. For sure. Usually at Duke, Pollard would lose multiple games or series this time of year, make everyone forget them, and then go lava hot come mid-April and make game 3 of a super. Yeah. 100%. Got some big funding for next year. No surprise. How do you feel about Tennessee without Vitello? Well, I think there's a lot to discuss there with Tennessee. So number one, this is probably like the least talented team. Not saying they're not talented, but when you think about those teams, certainly over the last 3 or 4 years at Tennessee, like absolutely loaded with talent, just unbelievable talent. This team is a talented team, but it's probably the least talented team in the last 4 years for Tennessee. So that's number one. Anyone in the industry who watches college baseball seriously knew Tennessee's not going to be like the top 5 team Tennessee that we've known for the last 3 years. This is going to be a solid team, but it's going to be a top 25 team, but it's not going to be a top 5 team. Now, again, that's just on talent alone. I thought coming into the year, the biggest concern for Tennessee was losing Frank Anderson as a pitching coach, because Frank Anderson, one of the best pitching coaches in the country by far. And so losing him, I think, at least I thought, was going to be kind of maybe something that down the line we would say, man, like the pitching just wasn't as good as we've typically come to expect of them. Now, looking at the numbers of Tennessee so far this year, they're pitching to a 3.44 ERA, which again, think about Frank Anderson numbers were like, dude, at some points in the year, Tennessee was throwing to like a 1. But they're 209 innings on the year, 73 walks, which is, 1 every 3 innings, basically, which is solid. 266 strikeouts, like they're striking out a ton of guys. Offensively has been the real issue. They're hitting 278 as a team. They've only scored 156 runs in 24 games. So they're not scoring a ton of runs. 38 home runs, which is like okay, but they're, for the park they play in, and they do have a lot of power bats, they're not hitting a ton of home runs. The best, what's funny is you talk about like the ACC versus the SEC. The best hitter in Tennessee's lineup is Henry Ford from Virginia. He's hitting 344 with 8 home runs, 5 doubles. He's been the best guy. Another concerning thing about the offense is, you got 105 walks to 173 strikeouts. So they're not walking at all, particularly for college baseball. They got a 380 on base percentage as a team, which is okay. But in college baseball, like you want to see that over 400. So they're kind of well below that. They're OPSing 886 as a team. That's not great in this era. So the offense has just not put up a ton of runs. That's really been the issue. The pitching staff's been solid. And then let me see if I can look at the defensive numbers here. Defensively, they've made 13 errors in 24 games. So they've played really, really good defense. They're fielding at a 984 clip. So Tennessee, to me, if the offense can get going, they'll be very hard to beat in a series. But right now, you got Levi Clark, who was a stud last year. He's hitting 190. Tyler Myatt, which was one of the biggest pickups, probably the biggest pickup out of junior college this year. He hit like 30 home runs at JUCO last year. He's only started 12 games. He's hitting 240. He's got 2 home runs, 4 doubles. Not really doing anything. Blaine Brown, another big-time guy, hitting 278, 7 home runs, 7 doubles. Like, he's doing fine, but there's just not a ton of offense. You got 3 guys in the lineup hitting over 300, and 2 guys hitting over 250 after that. So you got 4 guys who are getting pretty consistent playing time that are hitting below 250. There's been a lot of interchange in that lineup. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys who have between 12 and 17, 18 starts on the year in 24 games. So that tells you they're searching for something. Like, they're searching to find the guys who are going to win the jobs. But I think Tennessee's going to be fine. Certainly for Josh Elander, a good friend of mine who I played with in pro ball, Tennessee's a tough job to take over after what Tony Vitello and he did, building that program into what it is now. It's tough coming in. Unfortunately, regardless of talent, Tennessee's fan base is made up of trailer cave dwellers who wear checkerboard overalls. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people. I was really happy to see them get the series win over Missouri after dropping game 1, because I thought, man, if they lose this series, the fan base for Tennessee is going to go crazy. So I'm hoping they can kind of get it going offensively and put up some solid runs moving forward, solid offense moving forward. Yeah, 3.44 ERA and a high K per 9 is a big step back and still really nasty. Yeah, if you look at those numbers, you're like, they're doing really well. But Frank Anderson, let me see if I can find the stats from previous years. All right, so 2025, well, they ended up at a 406, but that was all the way through deep into the postseason. I guess they were 16-14 last year. Look at 2024, though. 2024 is pretty much insane. 2024, 389 through the entire season. 700 strikeouts and 622 innings. Yeah, I mean, I think the pitching staff's doing fine for Tennessee, but it's really the biggest difference has been the offense and the lack of power. Look at this this is 2024 Tennessee. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hitters with 20 plus home runs, and Christian Moore had 34. That's a ton of offense. They scored 657 runs in 73 games. And that's, winning a national championship. Mizzou also not a pushover so far this year, stuck with Auburn. Yeah, Mizzou is definitely improved. I still think they're going to be near the bottom of the SEC, but they are not like the insta sweep that they were last year. I mean, last year it was just incredible that they got swept so many times. Mizzou's definitely not that this year, but still, they're going to be near the bottom of the SEC, I think. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me tonight. I gotta go to bed before it gets to 12 because it's Monday tomorrow. But we'll do probably another one Tuesday night for some of the midweek games, and then we'll be back to the normal schedule. Friday, I couldn't stream because I was calling the Kennesaw State Liberty game in Kennesaw. Was really impressed with Liberty and Kennesaw, to be honest, just from pure pitching staff, what I saw. But I'll be back again Tuesday, so see you guys later. Have a good rest of your night. And maybe Tuesday we'll talk more Iran war and global politics and